I'll call the member for Wannon.
Thanks, Madam Deputy Speaker. And the blame game is back. It's back bigger and better than ever. We were going to see an end to the blame game in 2007. We were going to have the states and the Commonwealth cooperating together. Now we've got an issue of bungling, of mismanagement, and what is the response of the government? Oh, we're going to blame the states. We're back to the blame game. We'll throw financial figures around. We'll throw $900 million we're giving to this, $210 million we're giving to that, to try and put a huge smoke screen up to get around the issue, a very simple issue, a common sense issue, an issue which, if the government could take a step back, it could say, we can stop 3-year-old kindergarten programs closing, we could stop 4-year-old kindergartens closing in country areas. Let's look at a couple of the practitioners. And I'm going to quote the Hamilton North Kindergarten Director, Chris Wildgoose, who said the 15 hours could result in reduced hours for 3-year-old sessions. And I'll quote her directly, as in the Hamilton Spectator of the 26th of May. I think it's a good thing for children to have that much kindergarten, but it's just a challenge to fit it into the timetable with the 3-year-old groups and the play group as well, she said. Our committee hasn't really made a decision about how the timetable will look. It's possible our 3-year-old session will be cut back to 2 hours. Ms Wildgoose said that currently parents had the option of extra kindergarten hours for their 4-year-olds. The government has mandated that this year children do 10 3/4 hours, so that's the basic level, she said. We've got another session on top of that, so parents can choose if they want to do the extra hours. Ms Wildgoose said that they had the option of introducing the 15-hour weeks next year, but they were still unsure if they would go ahead. What Ms Wildgoose would like is the ability to say, well, maybe we will have the flexibility to bring this in over 3, over 4, over 5 years so that it can suit the need of the individual kindergarten. I'd like to now quote Sarah Millier, and this dates back to 2010, and the Wallora Kindergarten wrote to the government on this issue, so they've had plenty of warning. What did she have to say? She said, the government's universal access to childcare reforms will seriously strain the overstretched community. The further increase in 2013 will leave us with an insurmountable fundraising requirement, forcing us to seriously consider closing the centre unless government funding is made available. If the Wallora Kindergarten is forced to close, there would be inevitably be a drop in enrolments for the local primary school, the community playgroup and the maternal and child healthcare centre, which rely on the support of the kindergarten community, would have to look at their long-term viability as well. 3 key services could be lost and the long-term future of the school put at risk. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, that is what this motion is about. We are going to see 3-year-old kindergarten programs close. We are going to see 4-year-old kindergarten providers in country areas potentially close. All we need to see is a tiny bit of flexibility from the government. As the motion clearly states, what me and the member for Aston are calling on is for the government to provide flexibility for kindergarten operators to deliver kindergarten services according to the needs of their own communities and in line with local infrastructure and staffing capacity, or, at the very least, provide flexibility on the start date for the implementation of universal access. We all agree with the concept that we should move to 15 hours universal access. What we don't agree on is how we should go about it. Should we mandate from Canberra that you have to do a compulsory 15 hours by 2013? What is wrong with saying when individual circumstances are not suited by mandating 15 hours, why can't you say, all right, in your particular circumstances, you can keep it at 10 or 11 hours. If you're the Wallora kindergarten, and I'll just quote again, if you're the Wallora kindergarten and you're forced to close, there would inevitably be drop in enrolments for the local primary school, the community playgroup and the maternal and child healthcare centre, which rely on the support of the kindergarten community, would have to look at their long-term viability as well. 3 key services could be lost and the long-term future of the school put at risk. Now, given that, that's quite clear. Why wouldn't you allow that kindergarten, why wouldn't you allow them to say, yeah, look, you aspire for 15, but your circumstances at the moment mean that if you have to mandate it and you have to introduce it by 2013, you're going to lose in that community all those services. Why wouldn't you say, leave it at 10, and then when you can afford it, then move to 15? Why do we have to mandate from Canberra, which is going to cause this hardship for the township of Wallora? The same thing is going to happen in my electorate in the township of Cavendish. Dunkeld potentially can be left without a kindergarten teacher, all because this government has to mandate, has to prescribe, has to be prescriptive and won't let an individual circumstance dictate how a kindergarten should run. Now, we've heard from the member for Aston the impact it's going to have on 3-year-old programs in urban areas. Devastating. In country areas, it's going to have a broad impact on whole communities. Kindergartens closing, schools in the future closing, and all the services that go with it, especially your maternal primary health care, being threatened. All because you will not provide a tiny bit of flexibility. You want to mandate from Canberra, from here, without having thought of what the consequences on the ground would be. I see the member for Corangamite here. I'm sure there is kindergartens in his community which will be suffering as a result of this. The government needs to stop. They've been warned. They were written to by the Wallora kindergarten in 2010, raising this issue. So they knew about it. So why hasn't the minister acted? What we have put here in this motion is a very sensible, positive approach to fixing this problem. It is not a problem which is saying the government has got it completely wrong. We're saying, yes, aspire to 15 hours, but do it in a way where kindergartens can adapt to it in their own individual circumstances. Here's a positive response to an issue that needs to be fixed, that needs to be addressed. The government continues to harp about negativity. Well, here's a positive response to a problem which they've created because they haven't thought through the issue. So why not look at it? Look at it. Read what we're calling on. Provide flexibility. Provide flexibility. Not too difficult. Not too difficult. Not too difficult. Instead of saying, we know best, this is how we'll be, Canberra on high, this is how you should act. Why not say, well, generally this is what we would like. Generally this is what we would like, but when your individual circumstances are different, then sure, you can have some flexibility. If you want to do 11 hours of teaching next year and then move to 12 and then to 13 and by 2018 get to 15 hours, we're fine by that, because we would prefer that than communities having the guts ripped out of them, which is what this motion has the potential to do. So I call on the government, I call on the minister. I've written to the minister on this issue. The Wallora kindergarten has written to him, the Dunkeld, the Cavendish kindergarten, they've all written to him. They've all stated their case. It's not change your whole policy, it's show flexibility, a tiny bit of flexibility in how you're going about doing it, because that will save kindergartens, it will save 3-year-old programs, and it will potentially save communities. So I call on all members of the opposite side, all members of the government, to have a look at this motion. It's a good motion, it's a common sense motion, It's got an urban representative saying this is going to cause problems and a country representative. Fix the mess.
Has expired.